2 Thessalonians, a letter of the Apostle Paul, written to a very, very young church that was established in very, very difficult circumstances and knew persecution right from the beginning. Absolutely fascinating. Paul goes to this town. There's a lot of trouble as a result of his preaching the gospel. A few people are converted. He then has to leave the city. He's banished from it in such a way that he anticipated not being able ever to go back. And so he writes to them, the first letter of Thessalonians, and then they continue to have more difficulties, and he writes the second letter of Thessalonians. And the particular significance of the second letter is by this time they're beginning to experience a pattern of opposition and persecution. And you know, anyone can put up with difficulties for a while, but eventually it gets to you when it goes on, and there just seems to be no end in sight to the difficulties that are being faced. And so the kind of banner that I put over this letter in my own thinking is that it's about staying the course when you're getting tired of the battle. That's really the heart of it. And it begins there right from the beginning, because Paul says, "We ought always to give thanks to God for you, brothers, because your faith is growing and your love is increasing." And he says, "We are boasting about you in the churches of God for the steadfastness of your faith in all the persecutions that you're experiencing." Now that's what it's about. Here's these believers, they're growing in faith, they're growing in love, they're sticking it out, and they're doing it in a sustained onslaught. Now, that kind of difficulty comes in different ways to different folks. It may not be that there's kind of some physical affliction of folks who are kind of banging on our doors and opposing in that kind of literal persecution way. But I want to say to Christians, now think about the pressures that you're facing. Look at what's coming into your life. And it may be that you're seeing just a long pattern, that you're facing difficulties. You say, when is this ever going to come to an end? This letter is for you. It's written for people who need to know what it is to grow in faith and to be sustained in love in a situation where difficulties just seem to be coming, and they're faster coming, and there doesn't seem to be an end in sight. It's full of great things about the ultimate purpose of God. We have some very clear statements in this book about the judgment of God, about what it will be for Christians to be in the presence of Christ. A long section in relation to the coming of the Antichrist that is very, very important. And then in chapter 3, there's exhortation to keep yourselves in the love of God and in the patience of Christ, Paul says. You've got to live in the knowledge of God's love. You've got to have the very patience of Christ by the Spirit being infused into you. That's the way in which you're going to be able to stay the course, even when you're tired of the battle. That's what perseverance is about. It's marvelous that God gave us a whole letter to help us keep going when it's really tough.